All right. There we go, testing the quick audio there. Um, hello everyone. I'm Fan243, co-owner here of XRS, and here, nothing much special going on. This is just a quick bi-weekly update. Like me and Card had said in a longer 1.5 hour update stream a couple weeks back, saying that pretty much we're back, posting to social media and everything. Every two races that we complete in the current XRS Cougar Cup season, we are going to try and aim for giving you just a quick update on what happened in the past two races, who were the winners, what does the points look like, and all things relating to pretty much what's going in and out of the league and what's happening at that point in time. Now, essentially, for some of these streams, they're going to be shorter. They're not going to be super long, and they're not going to. Well, not every single time. They're going to consist of, let's say, some guests. Like today, it's only me. But at the same time, I kind of just started the stream out of nowhere. So, hopefully, the more and more we do this, the more and more we can get like quick like post race interviews of the previous winners. I mean, technically, I can get a post-race interview of one of the winners because I won the first race at Daytona. It was in a photo finish with RZX Razor. Daytona is a completely different breed now in Forza Motorsport, and it's simply because of the drafting mechanics. The way that the drafting mechanics work from FM7 to this game. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Is a completely different perspective of what actually happened. So there really is no bubble anymore in the drafting mechanics between the old game and this game. And so that just makes it to where, yes, you get big runs, you can run in packs at Daytona, but you can't really tandem draft, and you can't push someone. Okay, you can't really push someone. Pushing really slows you down. That's really the big changes, and that made Daytona incredible, and that made Homestead. In reality, Homestead's supposed to be a spread out race, but really Homestead was ran as a Homestead was ran as practically Atlanta, like IRL Atlanta, especially on the restarts. The restarts with all of us being grouped up, getting up to speed, going into turn 1 and 2. If somebody missed a shift or if somebody was just slow on the restart for race 2, it was just a lot of 3-wide racing. We had a really good stretch of about probably 10 to 20 laps of just really solid racing that I was just shocked with the kind of racing that we were having. So I don't know if it's going to be very similar with the way that Indianapolis is going to be. From the way that we were testing, you can get a little bit more spread out at Indianapolis. But at the same time, testing with probably 6 to 8 cars at most is going to be very different from a field of 16 plus. Which, happily, I'm able to say that we've had above 16 drivers in the past two races, and we love that. We love that more drivers are starting to show up on a weekly basis and actually trying to hold out. We know the Mercury Cougar Cup is a popular series. It was really popular in Season 1 where we ran it in FM7, and it's going to continue to remain popular here in Season 2 on Forza Motorsport. So glad to actually have that. And if you did notice, we did actually change the name from XRS Mercury Cougar Cup to XRS Cougar Cup. Just a small change, only because it was more convenient, and overall the logo just looked better when our contracted logo maker by the name of Rocket. Thanks, Rocket, by the way, to making the door decal and banner. I don't know if he ever got a public thank you. I know he got a thank you in a Discord, but I never knew if he got a public one. So there you go. You have a public one. It's going to be interesting for what we are actually able to see at Indianapolis, because it's not going to be plate style. It's not going to be reduced horsepower. It's going to be regular Indianapolis. And in FM7, that meant really spread out. But in this game, with the drafting and the way it works, I'm going to be expecting maybe two wide. I'm going to expect a lot of two wide racing throughout the front and mid packs. I'm not expecting three wide racing, but at the same time, you never know. Only because I don't think that third lane has enough grip to actually provide a third lane, like for it to be actually viable for you to make a pass. We might make three wide moves, because we're definitely gonna make three wide moves to where, like on the restart, going into turn one, cars are still gonna not be quite up to speed yet. So those are opportunities to probably go three wide. And actually making an aggressive move down the end of the long straightaways, because with the how powerful the draft is, you can easily go three wide entering turn one and turn three at Indy. So really gonna be cautious about that. If you're a guy on the high line or the very low line, it's actually going to need to be one of you to back out of it rather than the guy in the middle. Only because from what we've also started noticing at Miami, Miami, the middle lane started to pull the most, like you had the most grip. The bottom line, for some reason, mid corner, you would get really, really loose. And then the high line, you would get really tight, and the car will start to pull a little bit on the exit, towards middle of the exit if you're on the high line. So it provided grass, different bit of racing. By the way, you're going to probably hear me like cough, sneeze, or like quickly do something because I have been sick the past couple days. So fair warning now. If I probably should have given that warning at the beginning, but oh, whatever. So both races were equally fantastic and exciting, in my opinion. We didn't really have that many yellows. We did have long green flag stretches in both races. I won the first race. Optimal Mantis is the winner of the second race, and that's actually kind of uh, crazy for Optimal, because he was expected to enter in that race as a part of Shift Motorsports and Harding Motorsports, which, by the way, combined after the middle of the first race. So entering into the first race, there were two teams, Harding and Shift. But then in the middle of the race, because both team owners lagged out, Cart and Rocket both lagged out of the race, and they discussed while the race was still happening, and they merged teams during the race. Which is also why, if anybody was wondering, they received reduced points because they merged teams mid-race. The only reason for that is because we determine who gets points at the start of the race. It doesn't determine the amount of points, it determines who gets points. And from at the very start of the race, Harding and Shift were two separate teams. So since they were two separate teams and they combined mid-race, then they wouldn't receive full points if they were joined teamed before the first race. So that's the only reason. Yeah, it's only at the end of the race the amount of points is determined. So obviously, if you finished first, you get the most amount of points. If you were qualifying, that's when you actually get your bonus points and stuff like that. So all these other things, like the amount of points that you get is determined at the end of the race. Who gets the points is determined at the start of the race. Race 2 at Homestead, it was kind of chaotic throughout the beginning and then towards the end of the race. We had a huge wreck towards the end of the race. I was involved in that. I swear there was like 3 cars that flipped at the same time. Those recordings are all on our social media pages, except for the TikTok page. In reality, we're probably going to not return to the TikTok page, or if we are, we're going to make a new TikTok page. That has not been determined yet. But on our Twitter, on our Instagram, and our YouTube page, all of those clips are posted. I can't if I can talk, I can't post clips into Twitch because Twitch obviously is a streaming service. So you make your own content on Twitch, which is pretty convenient in ways. Other times it's maybe not as convenient. I need to stop doing that. Okay. Uh, and that's pretty much the gist of what happened over the past two races. It was just fun. It was exciting. The winners, like I said, myself, I won the first race, and then Optimal Mantis, winner of the second race. Where Mantis, he joined DBM. So now DBM consists of Exiv, Dawson, and Optimal, and Shift Harding or Hard Shift Motorsports, I believe that's the official name. I'll need to double check on that. But Hard Shift Motorsports, obviously, that consists of Rocket, Kart, um, and I believe that also consists of Razor, and then that also would now consist of RZX Neo. They joke around. They joke around. They're like, "We'll sign Oracle, not Neo." And if you don't know, STG Oracle and RZX Neo are the same person. They are just different accounts. Um, so yeah, they were joking around like, "We'll sign Oracle and not Neo." Um, And those were really the only couple of changes that had been made in terms of the team rosters. A lot of the other team rosters remained the same. We saw some returning faces for race 2 at Homestead. Smokey Eunuch, we saw him return into the race, and he was pretty much saying he's here to race, and that's perfectly fine. We're perfectly okay with that. Deadpool Weed, he was also in the practice lobby, but fortunately, I don't believe he actually filled out any of the sign-up information. I'll need to double check today, see if he did afterwards, but he didn't end up competing in the race. He ended up doing qualifying, but either way, if he didn't sign up, I was going to tell him to leave. But he kind of already did that on his own, because I believe he actually races, from what Smokey and FM told me, he races on the cloud version of Forza Motorsport. So cloud version and he can barely handle like when you race with like 6 to 8 people, but in a full race of about 16 plus people, yeah, you're not going to have the greatest of connections. The points have not officially been posted for race 2, only because we are reviewing incidents that happened over race 2, and we are reviewing the clips to see if anybody did not have the required decals. So we made it a requirement for this season, if you are not running the banner and if you are not running the door decal, then you will receive a points penalty. For your first offense, it's going to be very small. Me and Cart, we've determined probably if you're just missing the door decal but you have the banner, then it's going to be only a 5-point deduction, your first offense. If you're missing both on your first offense, then it's a 10-point. And then it's a 10-point deduction. So it's just a matter of which one you're missing. If you're missing both of them, it's 10. If you're missing one of them, it's 5 for your first offense. Your second offense, though, it will be probably 15 to 20 points the second time, because now you've been told after the first time you need to have the correct decals. And then you've been told you need to have the correct decals, and if you didn't make that correction, it's going to be a harsher penalty. And if somehow you still keep going, me and Cart haven't discussed on a third offense yet. We hope we don't need to get to a third offense on you not being able to run your decals, but the points penalties will just continue to stack. They will get bigger, and if we get to a fourth offense, I think a third offense will still be a points penalty. It'll just be bigger, probably 20 to 30 points. And if you somehow keep going and then you get to your fourth offense, it will result in suspension. So yeah, just a requirement. They're posted, the decals are posted, and we understand it might be difficult to get those arranged for people who have cars made for them. to people who have cars made for them. But the one simple fix around this, since there is no auction system, you can't auction a car to someone else in this game. The simple fix around it is to make the entire side of the car one big vinyl decal. Okay, so for example, if we're looking at my car here on the screen, for the streams I should make an XRS car again, but for now it's just my car. Um, See how the sides I have a gradient from the blue in the front to the white to the rear, and a bunch of the decals, the 24, the Credit One Bank, Strange, Exalta, Trackhouse, all of those logos on the side. Here's a good shot of it here. Make it without the XRS Cougar Cup decal and make the top without the banner. Just make room for it. So then the driver needs to then equip this big decal to the side of their car. Okay? They need to equip the big decal to the side of their car that has all the logos, has all the gradients, has the paint scheme pretty much. But then they have to then edit the scheme just to put the door decal and to put the banner on the windshield. So that's the only way that I can see that you can fix it, because there is no auction system in this game, so you're not auctioning off someone a whole car ready for them to race, but rather than you're just giving them a big decal. You're giving them a big decal for them to actually put on the car. I don't believe there's anything else. Actually, no, there is. The one thing that I will talk about right now, I do see that I have one viewer. I don't know if that's actually accurate or not, because I've also been monitoring and I've seen no one has chat. Like, no one has been in the chat, so that's perfectly fine. But we will have an experimental series coming up. So, the experimental series... Ah, it's Rewar! So, sup, Rewar. So we will have an experimental series that we will be running alongside the Mercury Cougars coming up. The series will be announced later this week in full, to where we will give the sign-up forms and release the schedule and all of that. I'm just going to say what the series is right now. The series will be called the XRS Trans Am Tour. So we will be doing a short experimental 6-race season alongside with the Mercury Cougars. The first race, if I remember correctly, we are expecting to run the first race in April. Let me double check here. Okay, I think April 6th is when we are going to be starting, just to make sure. Yeah, April 6th. So that's where I have it right here in my, yeah, I finally found my notes. Okay, so April 6th, that will be the first race in the XRS Trans Am Tour. Later this week is when we are going to be announcing the full schedule, the rules, and making all the channels and Discord for it. But then also making the roll in Discord, releasing the sign-up form. Since it is an experimental series, we're not going to have decals for the series, since it's not a permanent series. So there will be no requirement in terms of a series-specific decals on the cars. Like here, for example, the XRS Silver banner and then the XRS Cougar Cup door decal. We're not going to require those types of decals. There is a general XRS door decal that's posted by me. Maybe that will probably be our only requirement, like just the XRS door decal. And then I can easily post a picture of that in the Discord, so then the drivers are well aware of that's the decal that we would require, since it's an experimental series. But yeah, later this week, full signups and schedule will be posted of the XRS Trans Am Tour. It will be. I know right now there's 4 Trans Am cars in the game. We're only going to be allowing 3 of them. Um, yeah, we're going to be allowing the Mustang, the Challenger, and the Cadillac. Those will be the 3 cars that will be ran in the series, and we will be announcing the full schedule and all of that and the rules set later this week. So then it's just going to be something that we're going to be running in our older Saturday night time slot. Um, yeah, we're going to be running it Saturday nights, and it's just going to be a short 6 week experiment. We're going to see if it has interest. We're going to see if people are going to run it. In reality, I would like to see a lot of our drivers who currently run in the Mercuries there, because the way that we're running the Trans Am Tour, we're kind of making, you'll see later this week, but we're going to be making a mix, a hybrid, so to speak, of what we would have as an endurance series and a NASCAR series. So it's going to be a mix of what you would see from our like GT Challenge and our Cup series. It's going to be a mix of those 2 series put together. That's pretty much what we're going to be doing with the Trans Am Tour. So it's not going to be fully road course based, nor is it going to be fully oval based. Um, so there will be ovals on the schedule. There will be road courses on the schedule, obviously. Tuning, the way that we have all that set right now, we're just working and finalizing on a couple things if we need to have them done. But overall, the Trans Am cars are pretty equal in performance right away. From what we were testing with them, each of them has a little bit of a different driving style. We were noticing like the Mustang has a lot of straight line horsepower speed. The Challenger feels the most balanced, but the Cadillac feels like it feels like it has more agility. Like it feels like you can definitely roll the body of the Cadillac a lot more. So it's a more loose car by nature, but it doesn't have the most power in the world. So we think it's going to be something that, hey, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a mix of GT and NASCAR. So hopefully it actually gets a pretty good running. I know probably me and Cart are going to be in it for sure because we're the owners. Um, but yeah, if there's anyone else, Saturday nights, if you're interested, at least show up to like the first 2 races at least, just so then we can get an idea of, hey, we want to get a bigger group together for the first couple races at least, because then if it falls off, then we know, okay, maybe this is something that we shouldn't have as another series. So, and that's the way it's going to work furthermore. So, furthermore, beyond the Cougar Cup season, beyond season 2 of the Cougar Cup, we are going to have one NASCAR series running at all times. So at all times, we are during a certain season of the year, so in this case, spring will be the Cougar Cup. We're going to have a series that's NASCAR related or NASCAR based running as our primetime series. It's our primary series, it's our primetime series, and then during a different time during the same weekend, we will then have a secondary series. Whether if we have a permanent secondary series or not, that will then be determined. As of right now, the only permanent secondary series that we will be running is the GT Challenge. The GT Challenge, it will return later this year, and GT we will run as a permanent secondary series. Now, over the summer is when we are aiming to run the World Endurance Cup, as we announced back in the showcase in December. So, the Endurance Cup, if the Endurance Cup ends up being a pretty decently popular series with the different multi-class racing aspects of it, then that will also turn into a permanent secondary series. So NASCAR will always be our primary series because XRS we want to have be a heavily NASCAR orientated league. So all year round we're going to have a NASCAR series going on, and then that will be our primary series. But our secondary series will be just as important. It'll help us grab a little bit of a bigger audience, and it's going to improve overall our NASCAR guys get a little bit outside of their comfort zone, because a lot of NASCAR guys, they might want to venture off into other leagues, and that's perfectly fine if they want to venture off into other leagues. So if we provide a kind of app-based GT series, or an app-based series that's not NASCAR based, it will help improve your skill, obviously, on more on the road courses, which will then translate to better racing overall in the NASCAR series. So that is pretty much the gist of what is going to be our overall structure moving forward. So for the summer, we will have a NASCAR-based series. Me and Cart actually haven't fully gone over what this will be yet, because we don't know if we want to bring the Cutlass cars back, or if we want to try and experiment with a different car to see if we can run it full-time and then bring Cutlass back in the fall. So yeah, Cutlass at some point will come back, and if we don't get actual Cup cars, we're trying to hold off Cutlass for the fall, so then we're giving Turn 10 as much time as possible to actually add an actual Cup car into the game, or at least some sort of stock car into the game that's not the Cutlass. So whether it be like a Gen 4 NASCAR, then they just call it like a 2001 Pontiac or whatever. Like if it's some sort of stock car that was ran in NASCAR, we will try to make that car our Cup Series. But as of right now, the Cutlass, the Oldsmobile Cutlass, is our Cup Series car. And if we can't find another car that we want to work with for the summer, then Cutlass will be moved up to the summer. If we are able to find a car that we can work with, I know me and Cart were looking at a couple already that are in the game. But if we do find a car that we can easily work with, then Cutlass will be moved to the fall, and we will run the other car that we're going to try in the summer. So yeah, later this week, the XRS Trans Am Tour series and all that info will come out in further detail. And that was the way that these little streams are going to go, the bi-weekly update. They're going to be just under half-hour long, and I'm sure even if other people would tune in more, they wouldn't want to hear me sick talking for more than 30 minutes without a race being on the screen. So yeah, that will wrap up this little stream. Thanks to all who came in here. I know Rewar, he was in the chat after I asked who's in here, so thanks Rewar for watching, and anyone else who was watching as well, thank you. And so that will pretty much wrap up this stream, and I will see you guys in at least 2 weeks' time.